Go ahead.
Madam Speaker, I rise to add my voice in support of the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency legislation, which is now before the House for debate. Now, Madam Speaker, I need you to bear with me just a bit as I seek to develop a point here. I would imagine that if someone wants to become a doctor, it is because he has a strong desire to help the sick. If someone aspires to become a lawyer, it is because they possess a drive to seek justice on behalf of their clients. In the same vein, Madam Speaker, I believe that if one enters the field of politics, it would be to seek to secure opportunities for improvement in the lives of the people whom that individual represents. So it is quite mysterious to me that politicians on the opposition side would encounter such an excellent and benign opportunity as this, and instead of rapidly embracing it, they seek to denigrate and criticize it. A mystery to me, Madam Speaker. I can't understand. And let us delve into what the contents of this legislation is, and let us see why it has attracted such significant support from the government side. It's not just because we're on the government side, but because it is legislation that is important to the development and to provide assistance for people when they need it. Madam Speaker, I listened carefully to the leader of the opposition. I was sitting in the chair, and I had to listen to him. And I will give him that, Madam Speaker. He did make some salient points in respect to the need to ensure the proper management of public funds and to safeguard against people taking unnecessary advantage of the generosity of the government system. And I agree with him, Madam Speaker. But several members on the opposition side, including the leader of the opposition, have sought to suggest that such an agency should form part of the welfare department. And they have been making that suggestion, Madam Speaker, for a long time now in criticism of the public support program as it exists today. We know it as the Red Clinic. They have been making that point for a long time. Every time they speak of the public support program, they say it should be attached to the welfare department. Well, I beg to disagree, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let us take some time to understand the role and the functions of the welfare department. The welfare department is a department that seeks to respond in a holistic way to the needs of the most vulnerable in society. And that, in my opinion, cannot be rapid response in any way, Madam Speaker. When you have to respond to the needs of the vulnerable, it takes time, especially those who are most vulnerable in our society. The officers at the welfare department are required to multitask with very serious responsibilities, which require long investigations and documentation. That cannot be rapid response, and I would not advocate that they respond rapidly to cases of serious vulnerability, Madam Speaker. The welfare department, as we know, is responsible for many areas, one of them being probation cases, as referred by the courts. There cannot be a rapid response when a juvenile delinquent is given a probationary sentence in an effort to prevent incarceration and to seek to correct deviant behavior. That is a process, not a rapid response, Madam Speaker. The same goes for child abuse cases, where a process is needed to help victims cope and to be rehabilitated from situations of abuse. There is no way that there can be a rapid response to child abuse, Madam Speaker. No way. There is also child care that the Welfare Department takes care of. You have institutions like Chances helping to provide safe environments for children who are orphans or those who have been given up for adoption and so on, falling under the Welfare Department. You have situations where the state has to step in and remove children from homes where they cannot thrive in the manner in which they should. And then you have the paupers, Madam Speaker, who receive a monthly allowance from the state. As a chairman of a village council, I'm quite familiar with that. Every month, those who cannot fend for themselves come and we assist the Welfare Department in providing, support for those who need it. Now, all of these situations, Madam Speaker, form part of the duties of the officers at the Welfare Department. And all of these duties require long and drawn-out investigations and evaluations. And so, therefore, we cannot conclude that the Welfare Division, or rather, we can conclude that the Welfare Division is not an appropriate department to deal with any effort to respond rapidly to situations of vulnerability. Madam Speaker, the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency, as stipulated in the bill, is meant to receive and process applications for urgent public support and relief from individuals, from non-governmental organizations, from community groups, and local government organizations, Madam Speaker. While it is true, and I think, rather, that we have focused too much on a limited scope for the potential impact of this agency on our society. We have only felt that this is an agency that people go to get a quick fix and to leave and to go. That is not the full scope of what the agency is meant to do, Madam Speaker. It is true that that has been brought to the fore, that many people just felt that it is an opportunity to increase dependency and so on. But that is not what it is about. I believe, Madam Speaker, that it is meant to provide rapid interventions which could be undertaken by NGOs, community groups, and village councils, which are local governments. It is stipulated right there in the bill. Do we understand what that means? That yes, individuals can walk in and go and submit applications, but we also have local organizations that can do the same, Madam Speaker. For me, as the leader of one of the more prominent local authorities in Dominica, the Granby Village Council, I see this as a dream come true for the empowerment of community-based organizations to bring forward small programs and projects which could be supported by the agency. Such programs and projects could have far-reaching benefits for communities and help to improve the lives of our people. So it is not about, as I said earlier on, people just coming for handouts and quick fixes. It is far beyond that. It is about government putting resources at the disposal of the masses, whether as individuals or as local organizations, to help change lives for the better. That is how I perceive this bill, Madam Speaker, and that is what I believe it is meant to do. And the opposition expressed major issues with the areas within the first schedule under which applications for assistance could be made. Madam Speaker, every one of these areas outlined are important to the effort being made by the government to respond to the needs of the populace, and they must remain as part of the duties of this agency, Madam Speaker. Take the first area, for example, Madam Speaker, housing repairs and drainage improvement. A lot has been said about housing repairs and why it should be included, and I endorse the reasons given. But I want to focus a bit on drainage improvement, Madam Speaker. Just recently, the Grand Bay Disaster Preparedness Committee met with the parliamentary representative, the Minister for Youth and Sports, Honorable Justina Charles. And one of the areas that we looked at was the fact that there were many drains and ravines in the Grand Bay area that needed urgent attention. Because we know that while Hurricane Maria dealt us a serious blow, wind, but flooding was also a serious issue, Madam Speaker. And in the absence of this agency, one of the solutions that the parliamentary representative, Minister for Youth Affairs, Honorable Justina Charles, suggested that she could attempt to find some resources through constituency empowerment, which is part of one of her portfolios. But with this agency, the Grand Bay Village Council, in collaboration with the PALREP, in collaboration with other community groups, in collaboration with all the stakeholders that could be affected by drains and ravines, we could come together and put together a project that could attract support from that agency and ensure that before the hurricane season, we could have, improved drainage in the community. So the agency's work is not just about quick fixes to individuals. Village councils can come forward and present projects in like manner. A lot has been said about healthcare, and even the opposition endorsed the inclusion of healthcare. So I will not dwell on it too much, but just to say that we as Dominicans must show appreciation for the quality of healthcare that we have in this country, Madam Speaker. There's too much being said about, healthcare and criticisms and so on. And I want to share very quickly, Madam Speaker, a personal experience that does not really relate to the bill. But just to say, my mother taught at the primary level for 33 and a half years. Bear with me, Madam Speaker, I seek your indulgence. And after she retired, she migrated to the United States and spent some 13 to 14 years. She returned to Dominica just last year. It's just about a year last year, May. And while in the United States, my mother was diagnosed with a condition where there was fluid affecting her lungs. And it was pretty serious. And she went to the doctors and so on, and they had practically given up on her. And so she decided, basically, to make a long story short, to return home to die, basically. My sister alerted me to the situation, and my mother came home. My mother had gone to doctors in the United States, in Tampa, Florida, where she lived, and they basically suggested that there was not much that they could do for her. Of course, she had insurance. And every doctor's visit meant that they could draw down on her insurance. And that was basically it. Healthcare in the United States was expensive, and it did not meet the needs of what? Her needs, basically. She came here, went to the Grand Bay Health Center because the condition continued to act up. Referred to the Princess Margaret Hospital. And at the Princess Margaret Hospital, doctors were able to properly diagnose her condition and to treat her. And I want to single out Dr. Andy Sentile, who was also from Grand Bay, who worked with her. And another doctor, Dr. Carlos, is a consultant from Cuba. And today, my mom is much improved in her condition and very, very excited about the quality of health care in Dominica and praises the government of Dominica. And you know what is even better, Madam Speaker? My mom is over 60, and she had to pay nothing for the treatment that she received because of the social programs that have been put in place by this government. That is tremendous. And I know of many people, many Dominicans who live overseas, who come back home to seek treatment here in Dominica, to have surgeries and other things. And we sit here and we do not appreciate it. Madam Speaker, it is time that we appreciate what is available in our country because other people do. Madam Speaker, education must also be included as part of the focus of the agency. I fully agree with the submissions made by the Minister for Education. And I just want to add one other scenario. Let's take it. A young man chooses to undertake his studies overseas without seeking help from the government. Because many students seek help. If you want to go overseas these days, when I grew up, you had to be lucky to get a government scholarship. But today, everybody has access to support from the government. But let us just say that this young person chose to maybe get a loan from the aid bank or from the Social Security scheme and decided to go and study. Persevered to the best of his or her ability and performs well. However, unforeseen circumstances forces that individual to spend monies which they had not budgeted for. Final exams are approaching, and the individual does not have the funds to meet the obligations to the school. What do you say to that individual, Madam Speaker? Abandon your studies? Madam Speaker, we know that applications to the government system sometimes is a long bureaucratic process. And so applying to the Ministry of Education when final exams are imminent is maybe not an option. So the agency, the Rapid Response Agency, is well placed to respond to the urgent need of that student, Madam Speaker. And that is why education must be included. That's just one of the reasons why education must be included. Poverty alleviation has to be there too, Madam Speaker, because the agency itself is well placed to receive donations. It is right there in the bill. We have groupings, for example, of Dominicans living overseas in the diaspora who may want to donate supplies to certain groups and individuals in Dominica. The agency will have the capacity to accept the donations and to partner with these donors to help alleviate the plight of the poor and indigent among us, Madam Speaker. And we have that all the time. It doesn't have to take a disaster for groupings overseas to decide to support communities and individuals here in Dominica. It doesn't have to take a disaster. We see a lot more of it in the aftermath of a disaster. But, Madam Speaker, Dominicans overseas keep donating all the time. And we have other agencies of people like the Peace Corps volunteers and others who continue to develop programs. The agency is well placed, Madam Speaker, to partner with these organizations to provide support in the effort for poverty alleviation. And, you know, I don't see the agency having, even if it is a rapid response agency, responding in 1 day or 48 hours. Rapid response means that you are able to respond in a timely manner to ensure that you can impact the lives of people And so poverty alleviation has to be there because we can partner with people to ensure that we can alleviate poverty. And that is why it is there. Access to water or sanitation is also important, and it should be included. And Honorable Sejean, the Minister for Education, alluded to that when he made the point that sometimes there is need for emergency reconnections of water to help families take care of their domestic needs. And I see that sometimes in my work at the WASCO. I see that sometimes. But even beyond that, Madam Speaker, many of our water systems in Dominica remain vulnerable following the passage of Hurricane Maria. And climate change, Madam Speaker, continues to threaten our water security on the island. Even if we have a vast amount of freshwater resources, climate change continues to impact that. And so water security can sometimes become an issue. Sometimes we experience droughts, and the water levels at our water intakes are low. And so the water pressure is low at our homes and offices, or sometimes they are interrupted, unscheduled interruptions. And so it is important that we consider having urgent responses to provide water to our communities, even outside of natural disasters, Madam Speaker. The simple fact that climate change continues to impact us makes it very important for us to have urgent responses to providing water. Water storage tanks and portable filtration systems are essential to ensure that we can respond to emergencies in the water sector, Madam Speaker. And we have to have that at hand. And the agency is well placed to partner with the WASCO and other similar agencies to ensure that we can have these on hand to respond to communities when necessary, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, micro business, that must be there too, that must be included too, Madam Speaker. I can speak to many stories about small business owners needing a quick fix to assist them to meet their demands of their customers and clients, Madam Speaker. I remember just recently, before Hurricane Maria, there was this young lady in Grand Bay again. And I can speak to matters in Grand Bay because I'm more familiar with these. But I'm certain that there are similar situations in other parts of the country. There's this young lady in Grand Bay. All she did for her living really was to roast some plantains and some chicken. And she had a grill. The grill got damaged. And suddenly, her livelihood was gone. It was impacted. And she came to me. She went to the PAL rep. And we were trying in ways, there were a lot of things that had to be done, otherwise, other priorities that were in place. But she kept on pressing and saying, this is all that I have. This is all that I do to take care of myself and my children. This agency is well placed, Madam Speaker, to respond to the need of, she eventually got a grill. Maybe even more than one, I think. But this agency would have been well placed to ensure that that lady would...
You have 5 minutes left.
Maybe just 5 minutes.
Speaker, I move that the Honourable Senator be given an additional 5 minutes to complete his presentation.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the member be given a further 5 minutes to complete his contribution. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. And there are many other stories that we can speak to in terms of small business. We have the Fresh Bakery in Granby, employing 13 people. Hurricane Maria impacted that bakery. 13 people out of job. Maybe just needing, some equipment to get back on their feet and to get 13 people re-employed. So this agency is well placed. So micro business is also, it is also necessary to include micro business in this bill. So all the criticisms that we have about why all of these different areas, I hope I cleared it out. Why we need to include many of these areas in the legislation and to form part of the agency. I will not speak, in the interest of time, I will not speak on item 7, which is the recovery from natural disasters, as both sides agree that it should be included. So, Madam Speaker, I am of the view that we need to take a closer look at all the benefits which can be derived from the establishment of this agency and to educate the general public on how they can take advantage of them instead of coming here and criticizing. I am willing to help facilitate that process by inviting the agency to consider opening an office in Granby. I know that there's an office in Newtown to serve the people of the South. But I know, Madam Speaker, that this is an effort to bring government's resources, to fling the doors of government open and to bring resources closer to the people who need it. And so I invite the agency to Granby. I'm willing to offer space at the Granby Community Center at a minimal fee, to help ensure that Granby and environs has access to the many social services which will be offered through that agency, Madam Speaker. And as I close, a lot more that I could say, but as I close, Madam Speaker, in the interest of time, I just want to make this point and leave it with the opposition. This is an opportunity to help our people, whether we are opposition people or government people, but specifically to the opposition. I want to invite you to embrace this opportunity, because if you don't, your people will charge you in what we term in parliamentary language as imputing improper motives. And let me explain why. Because if you continue to work not in the best interest of your people, if I was your constituent, I would consider you imputing improper motives against me and against my interests. And you know what happens when you impute improper motives? You are asked to withdraw it. You are asked to withdraw it. And I ask you to withdraw your criticisms of this bill. Withdraw it. And if you don't withdraw it, you know what happens? If you refuse to withdraw, well, you are put out of the chamber. Not by me, in that case, as Deputy Speaker, not by the Honorable Speaker, not even by the Sergeant at Arms. But the people will use the most important instrument at their disposal to put you out of this chamber. Be careful. Be careful with what you criticize. Be careful with what you reject, because the people of Dominica can certainly benefit from this agency. And I hope I helped us understand why we should really and truly embrace this opportunity. So, Madam Speaker, with these few words, I want to give my full support to the bill, and I look forward to its rapid implementation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I would just like to share a few thoughts on the bill before us, Madam Speaker, as I believe my colleagues have really done justice to the presentation, and there is not really much need for me to go further into the presentation, Madam Speaker. But just to say, Madam Speaker, that this rapid response social recovery agency, Madam Speaker, that we are here debating today, Madam Speaker, is, I mean, in a sense, we have implemented the rapid response social recovery agency already. It's in play already. What we're doing right now is just legitimizing it and giving it legal authority through this act. But really, I believe by and large that the entire population have understood what we have been trying to do. Because this government have said unequivocally, Madam Speaker, that we are here to take care of the people. And we will not sacrifice any interference, Madam Speaker, or any obstacle at the altar of service to the people. Because that is what we are all about. And the Prime Minister had put it rightly in his introduction, Madam Speaker, when he introduced the bill before this House, Madam Speaker. And he said, we are here to help people, and the state has to help people. And I believe that, in essence, the members of the opposition agree in principle with what we're trying to do. And I have always told them that your duty in the House is not necessarily to oppose what the government proposes. You can rise to the level of statesmanship and support the measure before the House. And then when we go to committee stage, if you have any issues with the bill itself, then we can make some cosmetic changes. But you must first stand and say that in principle and fundamentally that you support the measure before the House. That is what I think the people of Dominica will expect of us, Madam Speaker. And I mean, the Prime Minister has said it's not a criticism of the public service, but we have said that. But the public service has certain rules and requirements that you have to follow, that there are certain times, circumstances, and situations that requires a rapid reaction to save a life, Madam Speaker. As the Prime Minister said, in certain circumstances, we have had to move the Treasury in the dark of night to save lives. And that is what we are about. Saving lives and meeting the needs of the people come first and foremost before anything else. So we have to balance efficiency with speed, the speed that the situation requires. And, I mean, our Constitution says it, Madam Speaker. If we look at the Constitution of Dominica, first of all, the Constitution, Section 1 of the Constitution of Dominica tells us that Dominica acknowledges the supremacy of God. We are a nation under God, Madam Speaker. It's God that has ordained us as a nation, that has ordained this government. And we follow his principles. And we cannot come here and stand in the public and say we're a nation under God and do things that are contrary to his dictates. It is enshrined in the Constitution. And that is why we have a duty, Madam Speaker, an obligation to take care of our brother man. And I heard the member for Maho, the Honorable Minister for National Security, he quoted some scriptures, and I applaud him for that. Because what we are doing right now is grounded in Scripture, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in Proverbs chapter 31, verses 8 to 9 says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, Madam Speaker. And this is what this government is trying to do. We are speaking up for those who cannot speak for themselves. The poor and the downtrodden, the single mother who cannot help herself, 3 children, 1 sick, born with a hole in his heart, Madam Speaker. The government has an obligation, a moral duty, Madam Speaker, to speak up for the less fortunate, to help the less fortunate, Madam Speaker. It is in the Bible that those principles are enshrined, Madam Speaker. Proverbs 27:28 tells you, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due. Proverbs tells us, do not withhold good to those who it is due. And the bill before us tells us in what circumstance that we must do good. A man loses his house by fire, loses all his belongings, everything that he had ever worked for, all his memories, his pictures of his childhood, of his family, of his generations past, all his clothes. Sometimes some people have money saved under their mattress, Madam Speaker. All that goes up in flames. The government has a moral and biblical obligation as a nation under God to come to the rescue of these people, Madam Speaker. It is clear, Madam Speaker. It's clear. A generous person will prosper. That is the law of nature. As black is to white, as left is to right, as up is to down, a generous person must prosper. And I have always told people, when I speak, I've always told the nation, and I keep referring to it time and time again, the single most important gesture that this government did when we came into office is to dedicate this nation to God. And the offering that was taken up in the gardens, Madam Speaker, was dedicated to God and placed in the treasury. And that is why today we are seeing Dominica being so successful. That is why our economy has bounced back from the mess that we inherited in 2000, Madam Speaker, where we were at the brink of the precipice, Our debt to GDP ratio was in the 140% and climbing, Madam Speaker. The government could not pay public servant salary. And today, Madam Speaker, we are boasting that we can even pay 2 and 3 salaries to public servants. Madam Speaker, that didn't happen by guess, by chance, That happened because of the goodness of the Almighty, because we continue to give to the poor, Madam Speaker. The Bible tells you, Madam Speaker, he who gives to the poor lends to God. He who gives to the poor lends to God, Madam Speaker. So when a person is poverty-stricken and they cannot send their children to school, the treasury and those who have the keys to the treasury has a biblical obligation to open the treasury and give to the poor. That is what we are doing, Madam Speaker. I don't see why we should have spent all this time here debating a bill that is so straightforward. Why are we wasting the taxpayers' money? People, we should come here and take a bipartisan approach on this bill in particular. This bill. And Madam, I've told my colleagues already, you all, I don't know if you're all afraid to call it in the Red Clinic, but I am proud to call it the Red Clinic, Madam Speaker. I am proud to be associated with the Red Clinic. Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency. That's what the bill, that's the formal name of the bill. That's the formality. But it is the Red Clinic, and we are proud to have established the Red Clinic so we can take care of the needs of grassroots Dominicans all over the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, he who is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them, Madam Speaker. Proverbs 19. The generous will themselves be blessed. The generosity of the Minister of Finance and this government, our endeavors must be blessed. And that is why we will continue to grow from strength to strength, I don't know why you're all afraid, As far as I'm concerned, this government have about 3 or 4 more terms in office, I can tell you all that. I can tell you that. Because we spoke of the prophecy that was prophesied in 1985. In 1985, before the United Workers' Party was formed in 1988, Pastor York stood up in the Tebow playing field and said that there will be a party of businessmen who will be formed in short time. 1985, 1988, the United Workers' Party was formed. They will come to prominence and they will rise to victory. They will win an election, but they will lose it in short time. 4.5 years. But I don't think I shiver as I say that. I shiver. Madam Speaker, quiz where poem where, Madam Speaker. I shiver, Madam Speaker. I'm foul skin, take me, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Vian Pool, Madam Speaker. I shiver, Madam Speaker. But, quiz where, yes, sorry, Madam Speaker. Sorry, my apologies, Madam Speaker. Yes, goosebumps. No, but this is a serious issue, We laugh because it sounds humorous, but a pastor prophesied. And the pastor went on to say that this party, having lost election in quick time, record time, 4.5 years, and we saw it come to pass, will never again see power in this country. So I'm not afraid. The Prime Minister can call election anytime, when he wants, basically, Madam Speaker. But this is the legacy of this government, Madam Speaker. This is what we are about, taking care of the poor, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for he who stands at the right hand of the needy to save lives, Madam Speaker, from those who would be condemned, Madam Speaker, is a friend of God. That is what the Bible says, Madam Speaker, in Psalm 109. That I stand on principle. I am very proud to be standing here as a believer, Madam Speaker, exposing the principles of the great book. And to see that I am part of a party and a regime, Madam Speaker, that is actually practicalizing those principles, Madam Speaker. I mean, I am just elated at this point. And I would like to tell all of the people of Dominica that we are for all of the people. We do not see colors in this party, Madam Speaker. This rapid response agency, Madam Speaker, and that is why we are formalizing it. That is why we are creating an agency, Madam Speaker, so people can feel sure that they can go to that agency and their needs will be met, Madam Speaker. The urgent needs that they have will be taken care of. That is what we promised them, and that is what we will actually deliver to them. And that is what we'll be doing, Madam Speaker. So when I hear members on the other side, Madam Speaker, talking about the public service, and we feel that the public service lacks the capacity, we have some of the best public servants in the OECS and in the region working right here, Madam Speaker. And I can start calling names. The financial secretary in Dominica is one of the best public servants at what she does in the region, Madam Speaker. We have public servants here of high caliber, so we're not questioning the public service, Madam Speaker. But the public service has their rules and their regulations that they have to follow, Madam Speaker. We appreciate that, we recognize that, but we understand that there are circumstances in which we have to move with alacrity, with speed, Madam Speaker, to assist persons in urgent need of care and attention, Madam Speaker. And these guys on the other side, sorry, the honorable members of the opposition have always been against poor people, you know. I can understand that, you know. Always been against poor people, you know. The leader of the opposition says about people that go to the Prime Minister for assistance. He calls them all kind of derogatory terms, you know, on the radio and on the air, you know, Madam Speaker. All kind of derogatory terms. Why you hate poor people so? Why? What have they done to you, members of the opposition? And I would like to tell the opposition that when the leader of the opposition makes those statements, you all must distance yourself from those types of statements. Distance yourself from those statements, Madam Speaker, because basically Dominica has been built on the sweat and the tears of poor working class people throughout Dominica, you know. In the days when banana was king in Dominica, it's working class, poor, hard-working people, you know, who used to go into the banana field, you know, to work hard, Madam Speaker, to carry boxes on their head, to send their children to school, to pay their mortgages for their homes, Madam Speaker, to put food on their table. It's the fishermen of this country, Madam Speaker, who go out there and brave the weather, Madam Speaker. So when they are in dire need, Madam Speaker, this piece of legislation will take care of their needs, Madam Speaker. That is what it will do, take care of their needs. And that is why we have passed it, Madam Speaker. I believe we have a moral obligation to do it, and that is what we are all about. So, Madam Speaker, I said I wanted to be short, Madam Speaker, because I believe that all of my other colleagues have exposed quite well on this, Madam Speaker, but just to say that I support the measure before this Honorable House. I think it's a noble gesture, and I believe history will record that this piece of legislation and this Labour Party, what we are doing for the Red Clinic, is a major, major piece of work on behalf of the people of Dominica. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I believe, Madam Speaker, on that note, I think the time it's appropriate to wind up the debate on that piece of legislation. And Madam Speaker, really, there is not much that you can say in winding up, because almost everything has in fact been said by the members who spoke on it. And Madam Speaker, the reason why we were so eloquent on defending that piece of legislation is because we live that legislation, Madam Speaker. We live it, Madam Speaker. And that is why the Dominica Labour Party is. That is the essence and the base, the foundation, and the philosophy of the Dominica Labour Party is to help people, Madam Speaker. And you heard, Madam Speaker, every member from Roseau Central, he told you that sitting on the other side, he would have probably been speaking like them. But having come into the family of Labour, and knowing what Labour stands for, and feeling the feeling, Madam Speaker, he has said that he now has a very different view on even the whole public support program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, clearly, the members of the opposition, they spend a lot of time trying to tell us how it's not because they don't like poor people and how they love poor people, Madam Speaker. And like the member for Portsmouth, Minister of Trade, told you, that is not reflected in their sentiments, in their statements, Madam Speaker. Because the public support program, they've been bashing it from day one, Madam Speaker. Public support program, they bash it. The public support agency, they bash it, Madam Speaker. And even today, while they try to tell you that they have no problem with poor people and they love poor people, Madam Speaker, these are the same people, Madam Speaker, who, like the member rightly said, who call the same people we're trying to facilitate, we call them greedy, Madam Speaker, publicly, call the same people we're trying to assist, the leader of the opposition and the United Workers' Party, call these people greedy people, Madam Speaker. The same opposition who met this 90-year-old man in Galion and told the guy to his face, I'm happy you have that coat on your back, because by the sweat of your brow, that is how you shall eat bread, Madam Speaker. While they sat in Galion, eating broth, Madam Speaker. While they sat in Galion, eating broth, and the leader of the opposition took his own, sat down in a corner, and told the old man, by the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread, Madam Speaker. While he had the member for Roseau Central sharing the bread, Madam Speaker. The member for Roseau Central was sharing the bread. He took his bowl, Madam Speaker, and you cook it, Madam Speaker, and told the old man that by the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread, Madam Speaker. And he sat down there, eating his bread in front of the old man, without bursting a sweat, Madam Speaker. But one sweat he burst, Madam Speaker. And then they come to tell you how they love poor people and they love for poor people. Madam Speaker, but the leader of the opposition have his own rapid support system, Madam Speaker. He have a rapid support system, Madam Speaker, because when he has to pay his bills, Madam Speaker, he knows exactly how to raise $100,000 in 2 hours, Madam Speaker. In 2 hours, Madam Speaker. While he have his account, he have his account with the People Inc. And when that's taking too much time, Madam Speaker, he goes on the radio and can boast that in 2 hours, he can raise a rapid response. That is what you call rapid, Madam Speaker. What we doing there, Madam Speaker, is joke we making, Madam Speaker. But what he doing, Madam Speaker, that is rapid response. Rapid response to get money for himself now, Madam Speaker. To pay his bills, Madam Speaker. After he allowed his tongue to put him in trouble, call the people of Dominica in a rapid response mechanism. Madam Speaker, 120,000 in less than 2 hours, Madam Speaker. And today you sit there opposing a measure that will bring some real response, Madam Speaker, to the poor people of this country, Madam Speaker. That is the hypocrisy, Madam Speaker, of the United Workers' Party, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition was raised with a rich family. He probably doesn't understand what it is to want. He probably doesn't understand what it is to have challenges, Madam Speaker. But sadly, Madam Speaker, when he's followed by members of the opposition, Madam Speaker, because, Madam Speaker, the Senator Isaac have no grinds, Madam Speaker. The member from Salisbury have no children, nobody to look after, Madam Speaker, so he don't need rapid response. Huh? Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, the Senator Williams, Madam Speaker, that is the one that hurts, Madam Speaker. That hurts, Madam Speaker. You know why, Madam Speaker? Because she has some children, Madam Speaker. She has some young children, Madam Speaker. Very vulnerable because they're young, Madam Speaker. And you're not sure when 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them going to run in some difficulties, Madam Speaker. When you will need to go to the response unit, Madam Speaker, to seek some redress, some help, some assistance, Madam Speaker, and you sit with men that have no axe to grind, Madam Speaker, they have no responsibility, Madam Speaker, they do no work, Madam Speaker, and you follow them, Madam Speaker, and to criticize the rapid response legislation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, like the member for Portsmouth said, we're not inventing anything new. The agency already exists in the form of the public support agency. And the issue about additional debt and how much more staff, that doesn't arise. because it's an institution, Madam Speaker, with staff. So there is no additional staff that you have to bring on board. Madam Speaker, if the leader of the opposition was so concerned about staff, Madam Speaker, and about what it will do to the resources you have, Madam Speaker, what is happening to the monies that they receive for their constituency offices, Madam Speaker? That, Madam Speaker, I believe, should be a bigger concern, Madam Speaker, for the members of the opposition, Madam Speaker. Getting monies under false pretense, Madam Speaker. I withdraw, Madam Speaker. Getting monies, Madam, and not putting it, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, getting the money and they're not putting it to the use for which it was given, Madam Speaker. So I don't know why I withdraw false pretense. Because if you get money...
Because false pretense has particular implications.
In law. Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Please
Madam.
withdraw it again.
So, Madam, I withdraw it again, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, you given money from the Treasury. You given money from the Treasury to run a constituency office. So people with their issues in your constituency can come to the office and tell you what their problems are. And you write their problems down, Madam Speaker, and you take it to the authorities that can fix it. So for the Wasco, you go to the Wasco. For Domlec, you go to Domlec. For roads, you go to roads, Madam Speaker. And, Madam Speaker, you have not opened the office. Where is the rent money? Because in that allowance is provision for rent. You have to pay your rent, Madam Speaker. And don't tell me you're renting from your own office, you're renting from yourself. It doesn't make sense, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you have money to pay the secretary. Okay, so you do not have an office. But where is the money? Where is the money? That money should be returned to the Treasury, Madam Speaker. The member for Salisbury, when last you went to your office, where is your office? Who in your office? Who working there? What you doing there? How many people do you see? And zero, Madam Speaker, because you don't have an office. So where is the money? Where is the money? Where is the money? As in, where is your office, the member for Wesley? Is it in Mero or in Wesley or in Woodford Hill? And how often do you go there, Madam Speaker? You can't have an office in a place you don't go. You don't live there. So where is the money? Who is your secretary? What's her name? What's your secretary's name? Okay, answer, Madam Speaker. So that is what I believe. And Madam Speaker, and what about the senator now, Thompson Fontaine? Getting a salary from the Treasury, Madam Speaker. Working permanently, solidly employed overseas, Madam Speaker. Working for a foreign country, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, his salary goes to his bank account in Dominica for what? Madam Speaker, for what? And you come in and tell me about money and taking money from the Treasury to pay, to look after the needs of vulnerable people in this country, Madam Speaker. We cannot be right. It cannot be right, Madam Speaker. And they said, Madam Speaker, that poverty alleviation is a process. Yeah. And so the government now should create jobs. How are we creating jobs? We're facilitating job creation. Had it not been for our efforts, Madam Speaker, we would have lost the call center, Madam Speaker. Constant interaction. But when we create jobs, you must have the work ethics, Madam Speaker. You must be prepared to work. The senator, Madam Speaker, from St. Joseph was fired from Clay Harbor, Madam Speaker, for exhibiting poor work ethics, Madam Speaker. Coming to work late, and she sits there talking about job creation. Coming to work late, Madam Speaker. Sleeping in one part of the country, waking up in another part of the country, can't get to work on time. Madam Speaker, we're talking about work and job creation. Madam Speaker, every time this government seeks to create jobs in this country, the opposition have issues with it, Madam Speaker. They took movies and went to the United States. Yes, Madam Speaker, because he had a video showing in St. Croix. Remember, the Rosa Central was still part of them, showing how Dominica is a dirty place, Madam Speaker, and telling people not to come to invest in Dominica, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a hotel owner who's supposed to be creating jobs for the people of this country, Madam Speaker. And they went on the CBS News and told the world that Dominica is a failed state. Do not come to invest in our country, Madam Speaker. And then they tell us about we must go and create jobs. Every effort, Madam, they wrote to institutions. They wrote to the World Bank. They wrote to the Chinese. They wrote to the Venezuelans, Madam Speaker. saying, do not send 1 cent to Dominica, Madam Speaker, because we're thieving the money, Madam Speaker. That is what they said. They put their hands on paper, Madam Speaker, to tell investors, do not come to invest in Dominica, Madam Speaker. And then you say we must create jobs in this country, Madam Speaker. We want to create jobs. But if every time we move to create a job, you have to go and mash it up, Madam Speaker, it will not happen. Because in that situation, we need the hands of everybody on board, Madam Speaker. This is about the country. This is about Dominica, Madam Speaker. And you go to the United States and tell people that Dominicans have how much gun and so on, waiting to shoot people when they come, Madam Speaker. How do you expect us, Madam Speaker, to create an environment? I'm a member for Rosa Central. You're very good at that. How do you convince people to come to your country to invest when you go out there and tell them that the young men in Dominica have guns and knives waiting to kill people, Madam Speaker? Even specifying which people, Haitians and Chinese, Madam Speaker. And you can say what you want about the Chinese, but their presence in this country has helped us tremendously, Madam Speaker. The presence in this country has helped us tremendously, and we have gotten tremendous support from the government of China, Madam Speaker, to build our country, Madam Speaker. And you come there crying your crocodile tears talking about work. No work ethics, Madam Speaker. They themselves are work, Madam Speaker. And I don't know what happened, Madam Speaker. This agency, Madam Speaker, it does not displace the welfare department. And to say you have 18 ministries, so just put it in any ministry. Madam Speaker, the rules in every ministry is the same. It's the same process you have to go through, no matter what ministry you put it in. Whether you put it in social services, in finance, in agriculture, you have to go through the same bureaucratic process, Madam Speaker. And it's not an unwillingness on the part of the public officers to make it happen. But it has to start at the bottom until it reaches the top and come back down and go back up. That is how the system works, Madam Speaker. That's how the system works. So to say, well, you have 18 ministries and you can do it within a ministry, Madam Speaker, it will not work that way, Madam Speaker. It has to go to a one-stop and consultation, Madam Speaker. Consultation don't mean 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. In 2 minutes, you can finish a consultation, Madam Speaker. So the farmer is there, the director gets it, he makes 2 phone calls, and in half an hour, you can have a check in half an hour, Madam Speaker. So to say we're creating another bureaucracy and will not achieve the purpose of the objective, it's not true, Madam Speaker. And to say, well, oh, you have to go through budget, and what will happen when the budget finish? Madam Speaker, until the United Workers' Party creates this contingency fund that they talk about, which means, Madam Speaker, that when you exhaust your budgetary allocation, there'll be a little fund, contingency fund, you will go in that. And when that finishes, Madam Speaker, you have to shut down the country. You have to shut down the country because that is the mechanism that has been proposed by the United Workers' Party to get rid of the supplementary estimates that we come here and debate for additional monies, Madam Speaker. So you put money there, you budget $1 million, it finishes, you go to supplementary, you come back for more money using the supplementary provisions in the Constitution, Madam Speaker, to raise the money. So that doesn't arise, Madam. And Madam Speaker?
You have 4 minutes left.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Just give me 5 more.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Honourable Minister be given an additional 5 minutes to complete his conclusion on the debate.
So,
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
We need a second and I have to put it to the floor. Hold a little bit, please. It has been moved and seconded that the minister be given a further 5 minutes to complete his rebuttal. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Continue, please.
Yeah. So, Madam Speaker, really, the opposition, I think they came to this debate to try to convince the people of Dominica that they love poor people. But, Madam Speaker, it has to be demonstrated in your action, Madam Speaker. It has to be demonstrated in your utterances, Madam Speaker. It has to be demonstrated, because, Madam Speaker, and they came here reading this schedule and they say, well, whatever. They agree, Madam Speaker, that health, and which one they say? Health and one, they say only 2. But, Madam Speaker, the issue of housing, fire passed, Madam Speaker, house burned down, lady and 6 children outside, no money to pay rent, everything burned in the house, Madam Speaker. Isn't that a straight case for the agency to come to the agency to get some rent money, to get some food the next day so you can feed your children? So how does housing not become part of this? And you couldn't exhaust the list of areas in which that agency will become relevant, Madam Speaker. We couldn't exhaust it. And every single one in there, Madam Speaker, every single one in there, as have been identified by the speakers before me, are well placed, Madam Speaker, to receive the support from this agency being created by this government. And, Madam Speaker, and we've saved lives. Lives have been saved, Madam Speaker. Even death, Madam Speaker. You have people that cannot dispose of their loved ones, Madam Speaker. They don't have the means, Madam Speaker. They don't have the means to, and the number of people who come to us, and it's not double dipping. People genuinely cannot pay the $3,000 and $4,000 to put their dead people to rest, Madam Speaker. And so they have to find somewhere in the government services, and you tell me that they must now go through the social welfare department and take another 3 weeks while they pay leanness and gentle rest money for every extra day spent in the chill room. And there is no system, Madam Speaker, where this man can get his lovely wife and so on and wrap up nice in a white sheet and so on and get a nice little coffin. Madam Speaker, we have to treat our people with dignity, even in death, Madam Speaker. We have to have some dignity and we have to have some pride, Madam Speaker, as people of this country, Madam Speaker. And here it is that the government is trying to put a system in place to take care of our people, Madam Speaker, and the members of the opposition, Madam Speaker. And, Madam Speaker, and these people represent constituencies that are challenged, Madam Speaker. They represent constituencies that are challenged. Roseau North, Madam Speaker. Roseau North is a challenged constituency. And I'd expect the member for Roseau North to come here and to support the bill, Madam Speaker, so that he, Madam Speaker, can get some weight. But he don't want to represent people. He doesn't know where his people are, Madam Speaker. He's out of touch with the reality, Madam Speaker. And maybe the member for Salisbury, you have challenged people too in your constituency, member for Salisbury. And you know people, well, nobody comes to you for anything because you have told them that you can't give them anything. So they come to us. They go to Nicholas Esprit, and he comes to the same public support agency, Madam Speaker, to get support and to assist. That is why you're not under more pressure in your constituency. Because Nicholas Esprit is doing your work for you, Madam Speaker. Because you don't do any work whatsoever. You don't do no work, Madam Speaker. If you're doing your work, you would see the pressure that before us. Me too, Madam Speaker. People have to go to Guadeloupe. They have to go to Barbados. Madam Speaker, how do we do it? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, $20,000 these people need, Madam Speaker. How do you do it, Madam Speaker? How do you respond to the needs of the babies, the children, Madam Speaker, born with all sorts of medical issues, Madam Speaker, that requires urgent. These people, Madam Speaker, they can maybe only make one child in their lifetime. Just one, Madam Speaker. And that child born with a defect, and Madam Speaker, you're desperate, wanting to fix up that baby of yours, Madam Speaker. Where do you go, Madam Speaker? How do you respond, Madam Speaker? And that is why, Madam Speaker, this Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency, Madam Speaker, is something that we need to embrace. We need to hold it, Madam Speaker. We now make it more transparent, and we put in structure in it, Madam Speaker. But it will continue, and it will continue to do what it is doing for the people of Dominica, Madam Speaker. And that is why, Madam Speaker, on this side, we appreciate it, Madam Speaker. With the government, we know how many people we see on a daily basis. We know their needs. With their heartbeat, Madam Speaker, we touch them, we feel them on a daily basis, Madam Speaker. And so we, Madam Speaker, like I say, it's our calling, Madam Speaker. And that's why it's so easy for us, Madam Speaker, to stand up and to defend that agency, Madam Speaker. And we'll come back here for more money, Madam Speaker, because no amount of money is too much to spend on the people of Dominica, Madam Speaker. No amount of money, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, Madam Speaker, to spend on the people. Because when we go to the people, we tell the people, vote for us because we'll take care of your needs, Madam Speaker. We don't believe in luxury. We don't believe in excessiveness, but we believe, Madam Speaker, like in every other country in the world, there are people who are challenged and need the support of the state to take them through some very critical period, Madam Speaker. And this is what this agency, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, we have no doubt, Madam Speaker, we have no difficulty, Madam Speaker, and we make no apologies, Madam Speaker, for putting this agency in place that will move with speed and rapidity to solve the problems of the people of this country, Madam Speaker. Farmers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, Madam Speaker, anybody, Madam Speaker, who falls within the bracket, red, green, or blue, this government will ensure, Madam Speaker, that we meet our obligation to taking care of the people of this country, Madam Speaker. So on this side, Madam Speaker, we have no difficulty, and so we commend this bill to the House, Madam Speaker.
This concludes the debate on the bill. And so I have to say, it has been moved and seconded that the bill be read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Rapid Response Social Recovery Act 2018.
Okay. The bill now stands committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House is in committee. Clause 1. The question is that the clause 1 stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Clause stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. And I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency Act passed through the committee stage with 2 minor amendments. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Third reading.
I move that the bill shortly entitled Rapid Response Social Recovery Act 2018 be read a third time and pass.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Rapid Response Social Recovery Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill, I move for the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Stamps Amendment Act 2018.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
No, we'll just do the statement. Okay. Yeah. Madam Speaker, in November 2015, the Stamp Act was amended to make provisions for incentives geared at encouraging investment in the tourism sector. The Ministry of Justice, Immigration and Labor has monitored the implementation of the changes, and in doing so has recommended that there is the need to capture more tightly in the legislation the intent of the policy decision that informed the Stamp Amendment Act of 2015 and the achievements of the desired outcomes. It is in this context, Madam Speaker, that this amendment is being presented. The amendment is expected to ensure that there is no misunderstanding of the amendment made in 2015. By way of recollection, Madam Speaker, the Stamp Amendment Act of 2015 amended the Schedule of Stamp Act to provide for the following stamp duties: conveyance or transfer from an individual to a company where the individual owns at least 25% of the shares of the company, and a transfer from a first company to a second company where the first company owns at least 25% of the shares of the second company. The stamp duty of 2.5% of the value of the property so conveyed shall be paid by the transferee, and the transferor shall pay no stamp duty. Conveyance or transfer for a new qualifying project. A stamp duty of 5% of the value of the property so conveyed shall be paid, of which 2.5% shall be paid by the transferor and 2.5% by the transferee. New qualifying projects for the above purpose means a real estate development or other new development projects with a minimum investment of $3 million that has been approved by the Cabinet as a qualified project for tax relief, and in relation to which the developer has a valid license under the Hotel Aid Act, Chapter 8504, or the Fiscal Incentive Act, Chapter 8451, Madam Speaker. It has been determined, Madam Speaker, that there is need to qualify the description of the property to which these new stamp duties apply, and therefore this amendment is to clearly indicate the property in relation to which the new stamp duty applies. In proposing this amendment in 2015, it was intended that the amendment to the Stamp Act was in respect of real property or other tangible assets. It was intended that the beneficiaries of the concession would be contributing to the economic growth and development and employment creation, Madam Speaker. The specific amendment being proposed at this time are as follows. In Section 3 of the Amendment Act, the schedule of the Stamp Act is amended by deleting the following: conveyance or transfer from an individual to a company where the individual owns at least 25% of the shares of that company, and a transfer from a first company to a second company where the first company owns at least 25% of the shares of the second company. A stamp duty of 2.5% of the value of the property so conveyed shall be paid by the transferee, and the transferor shall pay no stamp duty. Conveyance or transfer for a new qualifying project. A stamp duty of 5% of the value of the property so conveyed shall be paid, of which 2.5% be paid by the transferor and 2.5% by the transferee. A, Madam Speaker, a new qualifying project for the above purpose means a real estate development or other new development projects with a minimum investment of $3 million that has been approved by the Cabinet as a qualified project for tax relief and in relation to the developer has a valid license under the Hotel Aid Act, Chapter 8504 of the Fiscal Incentive Act, and Chapter 8451, Madam Speaker. The following sections will be inserted. Conveyance or transfer of real property from an individual to a company where the individual owes at least 25% shares of that company, and a transfer from a first company to a second company where the first company owes at least 25% of the shares of the second company. A stamp duty of 2.5% of the value of the property so conveyed shall be paid by the transferee, and the transferor shall pay no stamp duty. Conveyance or transfer of real property and other tangible assets for a new qualifying project, a stamp duty of 5% of the value of the property so conveyed shall be paid, of which 2.5% shall be paid by the transferor and 2.5% by the transferee. A new qualifying project for the above purpose means a real estate development or other new development projects with a minimum investment of $3 million that have been approved by the Cabinet as a qualified project for tax relief and in relation to which the developer has a valid license under the Hotels and Aid Act, Chapter 8504, or the Fiscal Incentive Act, Chapter 8451, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this change will limit the incentive to real property and tangible assets. Madam Speaker, this is a simple change, and I have no doubt that it will have the support of the full Parliament. Madam Speaker, on this note, I wish to move for the suspension. Or the adjournment. No, we're going back. Yeah, we're going back tonight. Yeah, so it's a suspension. Yes, Madam Speaker. Move for the suspension of the House for half an hour. Come back at 8 p.m., Madam Speaker, half an hour.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House be suspended.
Huh?
What? Can I go ahead? It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House be suspended until 8 p.m. this evening. Those in favor? No, but more than that. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable House stands suspended until 8 p.m. this evening.
Madam Speaker!
House resumes, and the bill is before the House for debate. Please.
Madam Speaker, since there is no debate on the bill before us, I wish to thank members of the House for their cooperation in that regard, Madam Speaker. Really hoping that with the passage of this piece of legislation, we will see companies wanting to do business will take advantage of the relief being offered, and also, Madam Speaker, to make the registration of businesses and companies in Dominica a little easier and simpler, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that's it? That's it, James? Yeah.
This concludes the debate on the bill. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Stamp Amendment Act of 2018 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Stamp Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a second time. Wait. The bill now stands committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House resumes, and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Stamp Amendment Act 2018 passed the committee stage without amendment. The question is that the report of the committee be adopted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Stamp Amendment Act 2018 be read a third time and pass.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly... No, seconded, please.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Stamp Amendment Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Stamp Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move for the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Income Tax Amendment Act 2018.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, in presenting the 2016 budget address, an announcement was made of some measure aimed at improving competitiveness in the tourism sector. Among the measures were proposals to amend the Income Tax Act, Chapter 6701 of 1990 of the Revised Laws of Dominica, to change the manner in which income tax incentives on new hotel rooms are calculated. Specifically, the measure proposed is intended to allow the Cabinet to approve a tax holiday of up to 10 years where the hoteliers have made substantial upgrade to the existing hotel plans. In the 2017 budget address, a measure to increase the non-taxable personal allowance was announced. The necessary legislative change for the measure is required. In addition, Madam Speaker, the government from time to time reviews existing legislation to determine where improvements can be made, particularly those areas which will improve administrative and facilitate increased compliance. Facilitate increased compliance. Madam Speaker, we would also be aware that there is a global focus on matters relating to income taxes and the perception otherwise that some countries may have within their laws provisions that may facilitate tax avoidance or evasion. While we do not believe that this is the case in Dominica, we are proposing in this bill an amendment that will make this position clearer. Madam Speaker, the following summarizes the content of the bill before Parliament this evening. The act is cited in the bill is the Income Tax Amendment Act. The bill provides for the amendment to come into force on the first day of January 2017, in respect to the announcement made in the 2016 budget address. The announcement made in 2017 budget address will deem to have come into effect on the 1st of January 2018. Section 2 of the Act is amended by deleting the definition of management charges and substituting the following. Management charge means an amount paid or payable for administration fees, management fees or expenses, head office charges and allocations, technical services, shared costs, and other similar charges. In addition, the definition of person is changed by inserting the word branch of a non-resident company immediately after the word company. Section 6 of the Act is the Secrecy Provision. The section of the Act is being amended to require the input of the court in providing information. Section 10 of the Act is amended in subsection 1G of the amendment bill by deleting the words "in Dominica" where they first appear and including a new phrase, "or where the services were provided." Section 10 of the Act deals with income that are deemed to have accrued from sources in Dominica that should be treated under the Act. Section 25(1) of the Act is amended by deleting the existing paragraph and substituting it as follows. 2. Traveling allowance paid to a person employed in the private sector who is a traveling officer up to the equivalent of the traveling allowance paid to a public officer. This amendment ensures that the same level of traveling allowance is exempted in both public and private sector. The previous provision stated a specific amount, but this new amendment ensures that the private sector would have free from income tax the same amount as the public sector if there are any changes to dollar value of a traveling allowance in the public sector. By inserting the following new paragraph immediately after paragraph 5A, gratuity paid to a member of parliament at the end of a term in office. The gratuities earned by members of parliament are made exempt from the payment of income tax. Clause 7 of the amendment bill amends section 26 of the Act. This amendment addressed the measure announced in the 2016 budget address. Section 26 is amended in subsection 3 and 5 by deleting the word hereafter referred to as the tax holiday period and by inserting the following new subsection 5A after subsection A. The new subsection A, 5A, is as follows. 5A. Where approval has been given in respect of a substantial upgrade of an existing hotel, there shall be exempt from tax for any such period of time as may be determined by Cabinet, but not exceeding a maximum of 10 years, all incomes attributable to the substantial upgrade occurring to the owner or to the lessee for carrying out of the business of the hotel. That change is supported by an amendment to subsection 7, which indicates that where no income is attributable to an extension or substantial upgrade of a hotel which is approved under section 26, Cabinet may classify the extension or substantial upgrade as 5-year plans for the purpose of paragraph 2 of the second schedule. Section 8 of the bill provides the following additional definitions. Hotel means hotel or guest house containing not less than 5 bedrooms for the accommodation of guests for reward. Substantial upgrade means extensive remodeling, renovation, or refurbishment. Tax holiday period means any period of exemption from tax granted by the Cabinet under this section. In Clause 8, Madam Speaker, of the amendment bill, Section 37 of the Act is amended in subsection 1 by deleting the word dividend and substituting word income. Subsection 2 is deleted and a new subsection 2 which states, Subsection 1 shall not apply to any loan or advance made by the company in the ordinary course of its business, where the business includes the lending of money, is introduced. This section of the Act refers to the treatment of loans and advances by a controlled company to a shareholder. Section 41(1) of the Act is amended to address the issue relating to licenses and fees related to management companies. The amendment includes in Clause 9 of the amendment bill. Clause 10 of the amendment bill is an amendment to Section 45 of the Act. Section 45 of the Act specified which expenditures are deemed to be deductible for the purpose of calculating tax dues. In this amendment, no deduction can be made in respect of any expenditure incurred for the purpose of producing income which is not taxable in Dominica. The policy measures announced in the 2017 budget address is provided for in Clause 11 of the amendment bill. In that regard, the term 25 is replaced by a term 30, indicating that effective January 2018, the non-taxable personal allowance is $30,000 annually. Madam Speaker, Section 58 of the Act addresses the application withholding tax. The amendment included in Section 12 of the Amendment Act is intended for that section to apply non-resident companies as well as branches of non-resident companies. Section 59 of the Act places the responsibility for tax to be deducted by the employer for income paid to its employees. The amendment proposed in this section is for the application of a penalty of $100 per month to be applied to an employer who fails to adhere to this section and the related schedule. Madam Speaker, Section 63 of the Act is amended in subsection 1 by deleting the word where and substituting the word subject to subsection 4, where in subsection 2 by deleting the word 30%, where they appear in paragraph A and B, and substituting the words 25%, and in the paragraph B by deleting the word 35 and substituting the word 25. Madam Speaker, this section intends to bring the maximum dividend tax credit allowed in line with the rate of tax paid by companies. Presently, the tax rate for companies has been reduced to 25%. However, the current rate for individual tax credit is 30%. Section 112 of the Act is amended to address the issue whereby taxpayers may deliberately file an incorrect tax return or not disclose any assessable income, and when discovered by the Inland Revenue, the person pays an additional tax only and no penalty for deliberately attempting to defraud the state revenue. The second schedule of the Act is amended in paragraph 2.2 of Part 2 by deleting subparagraph 6 and substituting the following. 6, trailers. 7, an extension or substantial upgrade or part thereof classified as 5-year plan under Section 26(7). Madam Speaker, this would allow persons to claim wear and tear under the second schedule for extension or substantial upgrade of an existing hotel where no income is attributable to the extension of or substantial upgrade. The third schedule of the Act is also amended to provide for the application of withholding tax on license, branding fees, and or other charges for intangible assets and payments for professional services such as legal and accounting. Madam Speaker, I commend this income tax amendment bill to the Parliament for its consideration.
The bill is now before the House for debate.
Madam Speaker, I rise to give my full support to the amendment to the Income Tax Act. Many would say that it's the responsibility of the government to create an enabling environment for companies to exceed, for companies to make a profit, for companies to excel so they can hire more persons for the benefit of the economy. And this is exactly what the government of Dominica continues to do. The government of Dominica not only does these things haphazardly, we also do our best to speak with as many stakeholders as possible, practically to all the stakeholders, to ensure that the plans and actions that we put in place are in sync with what they are thinking. Obviously, the private sector will make many requests, and obviously we can't adhere to all of them. And we have to ensure that whatever we put in place, there is some form of balance to ensure that the expenses that the government has in terms of roads, bridges, hospitals, you name it, we can still manage those properly. In terms of, so as we continue to listen to the wishes of the private sector, one of the things we've realized and we've agreed on is that just like in the government business, when persons travel on behalf of the government, they receive a tax-free travel allowance. In the private sector, that was not so. And obviously, persons who received the travel allowance ended up paying income tax on those amounts. So that, with this new act, those persons who receive that allowance will no longer have to be taxed on these items. But very importantly for me, and from a tourism standpoint, we continue to ask our hotels to upgrade, to ensure the hotels meet the various standards in terms of the certification. And there are many hotels, unfortunately, that don't meet the standards. Some of them are small issues, some of them are huge issues. And that was one of the reasons why the government of Dominica put in place the $15 million loan facility to allow the hotels to have the opportunity to upgrade on their properties, to meet the standards, to upgrade on their properties, to improve on the accommodations to attract more persons to come to their properties. So a lot of these things that the government is doing is not just haphazard, it's a suite of initiatives that are being put in place to make things better for the hotel sector. So obviously, when persons are going to use that loan facility and the duty-free concessions that will be allowed, we're hoping that they will make more profits, and hopefully with this act in place, persons would be allowed to have a tax holiday to allow them to recoup and to put back some of those monies back into their business to make it better for the long run. So persons will be entitled to a 10-year tax holiday. In terms of the upgrades, again, these upgrades are primarily based at creating additional revenue. But sometimes in a hotel, you have to do additional things to your hotel to make it more appealing to your guests. Take, for example, if you have a hotel and you don't have a pool, the pool is not going to directly give you additional revenue. But because we're doing all of these things, we want to ensure that the hotel sector has the opportunity to recoup on some of those. So any major upgrades that are done or extensions that are done where there's no direct income attributable to that, they will also receive a tax holiday, and that again making it easier for persons to do those upgrades. And as it was said, a hotel is one that is considered to have 5 rooms or more. So we're not saying it has to be a 100-room hotel, because traditionally in Dominica, many of our hotels and guest rooms are family-owned. They're small, so we're trying to capture as many of those as possible. Again, with the whole view of making persons self-sufficient, to allow persons to employ more individuals so that they too can take care of their families. So the government of Dominica continues to listen to its stakeholders. As I said before, we can't do every single thing that you ask for, but we try our best to prioritize, do those that are most important, which will have the most impact to our people. So again, I stand here to fully support this act. With regards to the personal income tax, I say to the individuals who are going to receive that bit of a rebate or bit of a savings. So it means that persons, the tax threshold was $25,000, or if persons were making $2,083 a month, it now means that the tax threshold has moved to $30,000 per year, or if you're making a monthly salary of $2,005. So those persons who are paying an amount of tax, income tax, and many of us who are paying a lot more than that, it means that you will have some relief in terms of the tax. And I ask you, don't just find ways to spend that money even before you receive it. Saving is very important. So again, the government of Dominica is committed to making things easier for persons in terms of the ease of doing business, to allow companies to make more profits, and at the same time to allow our citizens to have more money in their pocket. Again, I fully support this bill. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, let me thank the Minister for Tourism for summing up nicely the intentions of this bill, Madam Speaker. And as he said, the tourism sector, a very important sector in the country. We continue to promote it, Madam Speaker, and make it easier for persons in the tourism business to be able to function and operate, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also, the aim is to put more money into circulation. As we say, we need to move this country from personal income tax to more consumption tax-led economy, Madam Speaker. And this tax reform is a continuation of what we have been doing for the last 5 or 6 budgets, Madam Speaker. We're gradually raising the tax threshold so people can have more spending money, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank both the government and the opposition side for seeing the merit in this bill and for giving it their fullest support, Madam Speaker.
This concludes the debate on the bill, and so I'm moving that the bill be read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Income Tax Amendment Act 2018.
The bill now stands committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House resumes, and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Income Tax Amendment Act of 2018 passed through the committee stage with a few amendments. The question is that the report of the committee as amended be adopted. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Income Tax Amendment Act 2018 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Income Tax Amendment Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Income Tax Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move for the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Alien Land Holding Regulation Amendment Act 2018.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, prior to 2015, aliens were subjected to pay an amount of 10% of the value of the land purchased to the Accountant General. This was across the board, whether approved for development or dwelling purposes. In November 2015, a bill to amend the Alien Land Holding Regulation Act No. 17 of 1995 was enacted in the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Dominica. The act was amended under Section 5 to reflect a new fee of $6,000 payable to the Accountant General on the acquisition of land for approved development. This amendment, Madam Speaker, however, created a level of uncertainty as to whether the new fee of $6,000, which was payable under the new Section 5A, is in addition to the existing fee of 10% payable under Section 4.2 of the Act. Madam Speaker, it appears that an error was made which needed to be corrected and to remove all these uncertainties. Therefore, a new amendment 2017 was prepared by the Chambers of the Attorney General on the assumption that a 10% fee payable under Section 4 of the Act would not apply to acquisitions under Section 5A of the Act. Clause 3 of the Alien Land Holding Regulation Amendment Bill 2017 addresses these concerns by reinstating the reference or Section 5 in Section 4.2 of the Act. While Clause 4, Madam Speaker, of the bill would be amended, Section 5A of the Act to clearly state that a 10% fee payable under Section 4.2 does not apply where an acquisition is being made in accordance with Section 5A, Madam Speaker. That's basically a very simple amendment, Madam Speaker.
The bill is now before the House for debate.
Madam Speaker, just a very brief intervention here. I understand clearly the intent of the amendment in that it's for, particularly with respect to approved development, and the government is seeking to facilitate and encourage investment in real estate generally, particularly tourism development, pursuant to create jobs, etc. My problem is the fact that, from my experience as working in the public service, and I don't know to what extent this has improved, is that the enforcement provisions of the Aliens Landholding License Act has not been enforced as envisaged by the Act. In that, many aliens purchase properties, and although the Act provides for the government to forfeit, for them to repossess if they fail to undertake the development within a prescribed time, I think it's about 2 or 3 years, that nothing in terms of enforcement, there very little to nothing has been done. I know, for example, in the Picard area, at one point, most of those lands with beach frontage were owned by aliens with the intention of doing developments, and it never materialized. So I am wondering what led to the point that we fix it at 6,000, or whether we could not use a prorated fee. In other words, based on the market value of the property, the amount would increase rather than just a fixed amount. Because it is a fact that this approval is given to the aliens and they do not proceed to undertake the development as intended. And there is a hesitancy, understandable, on the part of government to repossess the property because they would hope that the alien will do something about the property within, say, another 6 months or a year. So we need to either, if we are going to be so lenient in the fees, I suggest that we make sure we have a good enforcement mechanism and hold on and ensure that the enforcement takes place so that the aliens understand that we want the development, but we're not going to facilitate you in holding land for speculative purposes and so forth. And or that you decide you're going to prorate the fee based on the value of the property, then the amounts would increase rather than just a fixed $6,000. And I don't know to what extent the government side would like to give consideration to that. But I'm afraid that based on my experience when I headed the planning department, this was a very serious problem, that many aliens held land in Dominica. They had their license. The Act provides for the land to be undertaken if you don't undertake development in 3 years. And nothing happened. And many areas, particularly cases like Kalebishi, going down to the Mero area, these developments here, a lot of these properties there are owned by aliens and nothing has happened. That is what I would like to put before the table. Relax yourself. Relax yourself, my boy. Relax yourself.
Just now.
Madam Speaker, I think I take the point being made by the member, Madam Speaker, and I think it's something that the government would. Huh? Yeah, it's something, Madam Speaker, that the government would like to look at. But what we're trying to do with this amendment is just to clarify, Madam Speaker, a little confusion as to whether you pay the 10% plus the 6,000. And what the bill is saying is like for development purposes, you do not pay the 10%, you just pay a flat 6. But I take the point made by the member, Madam Speaker, and I'm sure it's something that the government would like to look at. Thank you.
When we in the committees, we can do that in the committee stage.
Oh, sorry.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Alien Land Holding Regulation Act, Amendment Act of 2018 be read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. That the bill shortly entitled the Aliens Landholding Regulation Amendment Act of 2018 2018 passed the committee stage with one minor amendment. The report of the committee now the question is that the report on the committee of the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Alien Land Holding Regulation Amendment Act 2018 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Alien Landholding Regulation Amendment Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Alien Landholding Regulation Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled by Registration Amendment Act 2018.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the coat of arms of the Commonwealth of Dominica bears the word Apre Bordius Latte. It is no coincidence, therefore, that land is one of the main ways that Dominicans can enrich themselves, feed themselves, and ultimately create a better life for themselves. The accelerated pace of life in society and the growing need for transaction business to meet increasing demand for land and security have ushered a new era and has created the need for the restructuring of the registry to provide for separate title section as now exists for the Companies and Intellectual Property Office. The Registry Division of the Ministry of Justice, Immigration and National Security comprises 5 sections: the Supreme Court, the Titles Registry, the Civil Registry, the Probate Registry, and the Deeds Registry. Madam Speaker, over the years, emphasis has been placed on modernizing the registry by using available technology. Currently, the title section is under the general supervision of the Registrar General and the Deputy Registrar, unqualified, Madam Speaker, who has to oversee all the various registries. The title section is headed by the Deputy Registrar, unqualified. Madam Speaker, it's also important to note that the title section of the registry generates much revenue and has the potential to generate much more, as well to provide expanded services to the citizens of this country. A specialized land titles registry will also lend to improve customer service and faster issuance of certificates of titles, as well as improve handling of complaints and customer service issues. The proposal is for a separate land titles registry to be established under the supervision of a titles registrar and supported by the Deputy Registrar, unqualified. And that, Madam Speaker, is critical, especially in a time when efficiency of our titles registry and the delivering of titles in a timely manner affects our doing business ranking and our ability to attract international companies as investors to our island. In light of this, Madam Speaker, it is therefore necessary to make the legislative amendments and to make a few more amendments, Madam Speaker, accordingly. This bill seeks to amend the Titles of Registration Act, Chapter 5650. Clause 3 of the bill will amend Section 2 of the Act by deleting the definition of Deputy Registrar. Clause 4 of the bill would amend Part 9 of the Act by removing the powers of the Land and Administration from the purview of the General Registrar and creating the Land Titles Registry Division by Section 147A and creating a head of that division in the person of the Registrar of Titles by Section 147B. Section 147B, subsection 1, sets out the qualification of the Registrar of Titles, who, Madam Speaker, must be an attorney at law and will be deemed to be a public officer. Madam Speaker, it can be a common oversight when contemplating constitution of new offices, especially those where some of the intended functions are already being carried out, to neglect the issues of adequate staffing. This amendment seeks to overcome this potential pitfall for Section 147C, which makes provision for staffing of the Land Title Registry Division as may be considered necessary, Madam Speaker, by carrying out function of this office and the provision of this Act. Section 148 deals with the noting by the registrar, and the Act is further amended by repealing Section 153A and Section 153B. Madam Speaker, without these amendments, this important decision of Cabinet to establish a Land Titles Registry Division within the Ministry of Justice, Immigration, and National Security, and to create the position of Registrar of Titles to head this new division cannot take effect. Madam Speaker, I therefore commend these amendments to the Titles by Registration Act to this Parliament for debate.
The bill is now before the House for debate.
Madam Speaker, permit me again to make some brief observations and comments. I think it's a welcome amendment to facilitate and ensure that the person heading the land titles registration is a qualified person. But the land registry has important part to play in terms of, one, government revenue, as well as the real estate sector in the country, in that you value property, and the best way, in fact, the new amendments to the central bank, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is very concerned about that in valuing property, the approach that we valuers took before, they want to do it through market valuation, meaning that you do comparative approaches. What is this, how property is sold in one area in the locality, so that you can arrive at a reasonable value. Because property and land is used as security, and if you, sometimes this is where some of the credit unions in particular, and the banking sector find themselves in problems, because sometimes the property is either overvalued or undervalued. And therefore, if the persons who are doing valuations in the country do not have access to the information at the registry, or difficult to access, then it impacts the sector in terms of the banking sector and persons who do valuation for the banking sector, and generally for property for sale. As one who accesses information in the registry regularly for that purpose, I find it very difficult. Yes, you pay a $5 stamp, but even when you pay that $5 stamp to get to the information, you can't find the information because of the way the information is registered, is collated in the registry. For example, it's very difficult for you to find, there might be transactions in Roseau with respect to property, but to find that information is very difficult because the way the information is collated and it's registered in the registry is very difficult to get it. So I'm hoping that with this amendment, that if it's need for regulation, I think property valuers should have the same access that land surveyors have to information at the registry, in the land registry. It's in the interest of government because the information and the reports impact property sale, and government collects 10%, or as the case may be, based on the value of the property. And if the land valuer does not have that access, then in terms of your reporting and the final conclusion you arrive at is more difficult. And as I said, that the central bank is moving into that direction, that they're insisting that the people who do valuation must do valuation based on market value and not just an arbitrary figure as is the case. So this is important that the minister pays attention to not just saying that the person who heads the registry is qualified, but the information that is available and ease of access of information and in the registry such that it facilitates this process of valuation and the persons who do valuation. Also, the minister made the comment, which I agree with him completely, and the land use is very important. Everything we do finally goes back to the use of land. And one area I'm thinking of, the same way that we can now pass
Can I just ask you to keep to the relevance of this? Land use, I'm suggesting to you that land use really not...
No, Madam Speaker, I'm making the observation that the Minister, in his introduction to the debate, he made the observation that our coat of arms is linked on the use of land, and at the same time, how you pay attention to the registration of land is important because it impacts the use of land in terms of the person to access how I buy the land and how I get permission. The point I'm going to make, Madam Speaker, you seem not to be agreeing with me, but you'll maybe allow me to do it.
Agree?
Yeah, the point I'm making is that a department that also seriously impacts the use of land and the registration of land is the physical plan department. I know for years there's the recommendation that the head of the development control section of the physical plan department that deals with land as well and has to access land and information at the registry should be an engineer because it deals with the structural issues. And now that we are seriously concerned about issues of resilience and building safely, I would like to suggest as well that the same way we can make these amendments, that we look at the issue of ensuring that the head of the such department dealing with the use of land and land also have the necessary qualifications and in terms of the importance of national development. So the amendment will facilitate, will help to develop the real estate industry, but the amendment can go further, or at least the government in doing the amendment and recognizing how important land use, the use of land and land registration is to the development of the country, have to expand it further to look at how the other departments that impact on the use of land and the registration of land and the physical plan department, the development control section, also attention is paid in that area. With this brief intervention, Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Madam Speaker, with all fairness, I think in reference to the whole issue of access to information, and as you know, as I said in the introduction of this very important measure before this honorable House, the government over the years have been pursuing the whole issue of ensuring that the registry is modernized, especially as it refers to titles, the title section. We almost get to the point where all the information that we have, insofar as titles are concerned, almost imputed already into an electronic system, and that will help. Similarly, with the Companies Office, as you've realized over the years, it has been very easy to register new businesses and to retrieve information relevant to the registration of businesses. So that is the point that has to be taken on board. As we speak, we have a program where persons are actually pursuing that process of ensuring that that section is fully modernized. But, Madam Speaker, this is a very important measure. It's a very simple measure to facilitate business in this country. And
This concludes the debate on the bill. The bill now stands committed to a committee of the... No. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled, the Title by Registration Amendment Act of 2018 be read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Title by Registration Amendment Act 2018.
The bill now stands committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. Bill shortly entitled the Title by Registration Amendment Act of 2018 passed the committee stage with a few amendments. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Titles by Registration Amendment Act 2018 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Title by Registration Amendment Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Titled by Registration Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Police Amendment Act 2018.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force now has an establishment of 501 police officers broken down as follows: the Chief of Police, the Deputy Chief of Police, Superintendents 4, Assistant Superintendent of Police 6, Inspectors 20, Sergeants 36, Corporals 94, and Police Constables 338. Madam Speaker, policing has become more complex and now greater demands in terms of manpower and technology are being placed on the police force. The Regional Security System Council of Ministers recently approved a program aimed at developing a common approach to policing in the Caribbean. In keeping with this program, Madam Speaker, many of the islands have restructured the police forces to make provision for the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. It is noteworthy, Madam Speaker, that Dominica is the only country without the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. It is also noteworthy that in recent times, a number of new units have been added to the police force of the Commonwealth of Dominica, all requiring direction and coordination at the senior level. These units include the Tourism Protection Unit, the National Joint Intelligence Center, the Task Force, and Major Crime Unit. Madam Speaker, an Assistant Commissioner of Police, therefore, will provide strong support to the Chief of Police in the above-mentioned areas and in advancing and developing the police force as a professional organization. The police force will be required to report, the officer will be required to report directly to the Chief of Police, to the Deputy Chief of Police, and will have the responsibility of crime prevention, crime reduction, crime intelligence, and forensic management. The Chief of Police, in addition to his responsibilities for the good conduct and control and discipline of the force, serves as Traffic Commissioner and Chief Immigration Officer, and also has the responsibility for internal security, special service units, special branch, National Joint Intelligence Centers, and the Firearms License Department. The Deputy Chief of Police has the responsibility for operations, crime, and general supervision of 4 superintendents. One is based in the north of the island, and the others are the police headquarters, with command for the Criminal Investigation Department, the Serving Division, and the Operations Central Division. The recommendation for an Assistant Commissioner of Police can be traced, Madam Speaker, to many years back. And it must be noted, Madam Speaker, that the recommendation then was for 2 Assistant Commissioner of Police. And the other one with responsibility of administration, personnel training, operation, and crime support services. This recommendation, Madam Speaker, is even more relevant in 2018 and beyond. Madam Speaker, the Police Amendment Act 2018 will amend the Police Act Chapter 1401. The amendment has 4 clauses, Madam Speaker. The short title of the bill is set out in Clause 1 and Clause 2. And Clause 2, Madam Speaker, is the interpretation clause. Clause 3 amends Section 2 of the Act by adding Assistant Commissioner of Police to the definition of gazetted officer, thereby making provision for the introduction of the title Assistant Commissioner of Police. Clause 4 of the bill would amend Section 15 of the Act, which seeks to add Assistant Commissioner of Police to the list of persons who shall be justices of the peace. Madam Speaker, without that necessary legislative amendment, the position of Mr. Speaker, sorry. How can I make that mistake? Mr. Speaker, without the necessary legislative amendments, the position of Assistant Commissioner of Police will not have the effect in law. Madam Speaker, this bill certainly signals the commitment of this government to ensuring efficient and effective dispensation of justice in the land of the Lord. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, commend this bill to this honorable House for debate.
The bill is now before the House for debate.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker. I just want to make a few observations on the matter before us, Mr. Speaker. Amendment, or the Police Amendment Act, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the police force, as I can remember, for a very long time, from the days of Owen Philippe, Ainsley Pierre, Desmond Blanchard, Simon Darrow, Matthias Lestrade, Cyril Carrett, they had deputies. As we say, deputies essential. I am sure Honorable Austri can relate to that. But for the past time, Mr. Speaker, the police force on the whole, the police always there to protect and serve. And we're hearing what is going on in the police force. And I see that, Mr. Speaker, the amendment, I'm not against the amendment in totality, but I'm looking at this situation for police force right now. Let us first clean up or get the police force back to right order, the rank and file of the police force. Get the police officers energized to do their work. Community policing, crime solving, trust within the force. That is important. Intimidation. We know that. Security. And these are some areas I would like to see, as a citizen, address, ensure that our police officers feel happy. Mr. Speaker, and to do their work. And I mentioned community policing, Mr. Speaker, because it's important that the policemen can go into the communities and build the trust in the communities. And Mr. Speaker, some years ago, while we were part of the National Youth Council, remember that police had the Police Organization for Youth Development, POID. I don't know where that was under Mr. Blanchard, commissioner at that time, and he used to be in Salisbury very often. My niece and cousins were part of that group. And it helped in preparing our young people, keeping them on the straight and narrow. And that is where it helped build trust in the community. I made mention about trust inside the police force as well, rank and file of the police force. And recently, in the news, in the public domain, we are seeing that police officers taking one another to court. And that is not healthy for the police force, Madam Speaker. And these are the type of things we'd like to see address, Mr. Speaker, address these areas Let us clean up the police force. Let's ensure that they're moving in the right path. And that is important. Building trust. Mr. Speaker.
One
Madam
moment,
Speaker.
one moment. Excuse me, please.
Yes.
We would like you to consider the relevance, eh?
Yes, Madam Speaker. We're talking about amendment of the police force. And I am saying...
An amendment?
Yes.
There's a specific amendment.
Yes. To add assistant commissioner. And I'm saying...
Order, please. Order, please. I'm just reminding you of relevance, eh, please. Are you finished? Okay, well, next person, please. Oh, you weren't finished?
No. You asked a question, they were speaking, I give them the
and you turned off your mic, I noticed that too. I just ask you to be very relevant, eh, please.
And I made mention earlier on, Madam Speaker, talking about the relevance in terms of, as I said, that I'm not against the police force being empowered and having people in leadership. I'm just saying my concerns within the police force. I think that is a genuine concern across the board. As Dominicans would like to see the police force protecting and serving everybody. But you'd like to see within the force, the rank and file, the respect. And that is what I am speaking about, Madam Speaker. It's nothing against, I think I am more or less highlighting some of the areas we'd like to see the police force be better. And I think that is important for each and every one of us. In any one of us working within the police force, Madam Speaker, you have no, I'm coming to that cool wash business, yeah? Yeah. Promotions as well within the police force, the rank and file, police officers will tell you. Within the force, they would like to see officers be given promotion because of their work, their competence.
I'm going to ask you to keep relevance, eh, please. I don't consider that
I'm being relevant.
No, I don't consider. This is simply to change the question of gazetted office and to include one other grouping. That is
yes,
all.
Madam Speaker.
And so I would like you to keep relevant. At this late hour, sir, relevance is key.
At this late hour, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, speaking about empowering and ensuring that the police force move, we are adding assistant commissioner to the police force. That's what we are here, Madam Speaker. And I'm speaking of empowering the police force, ensuring that they protect and serve, that community policing is involved and everything, the police force, they feel re-energized to work and serve. Is that a problem, Madam Speaker? That is not relevance, Madam Speaker? If that not is relevance, Madam Speaker, I will take my seat.
Madam Speaker, just briefly to, I guess the minister can clarify in his wrap-up, because on the grounds of better organization and professionalism of the force, we welcome the amendment. I just want to be sure, because it's not spelled out in the amendment, where exactly the assistant commissioner fits in the leadership structure of the police force. And at senior leadership level, the Constitution recognizes the commissioner and the deputy commissioner. I think I heard you say, and you can confirm, that the assistant commissioner will be reporting to the deputy commissioner, which puts him in a rank below the commissioner and deputy commissioner. And we're good with that. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I think, as I said in my opening remarks to this very important measure before this Honorable House, that signals government's commitment to bringing the police further to times. But, Madam Speaker, I want to also call on the leader of the opposition and the member for Salisbury and all the other members on the opposition side to respect the police.
Yes. Yeah.
Madam Speaker, I say so because at a very young age, I started as a police officer. Notwithstanding the fact I spent most of my time as a detective, but I went through all the various levels of training, Madam Speaker. And I'm very passionate about the police force. Now, I am not one of the persons who believe that we should criminalize politics. I do not believe that. But I believe we have to show the highest level of leadership at all times. I have said before, and I want to say that again, Madam Speaker, for emphasis, as a servant of the people of the Mao constituency, I will never, if I'm in opposition at all, and God forbid that will never happen, I don't see it happening soon at all. I will never get myself involved in causing my constituents to offend the laws of this country, Madam Speaker. And to say further, Madam Speaker, going back to this measure, the need for putting in place a succession plan in the police force is very important, where we can actually identify persons within the lower ranks for future leadership role in the police force. And I believe the Assistant Commissioner of Police will create that window of opportunity for persons with the talent within the police force. And to say for them, Madam Speaker, that this government will do everything possible to get the police force to be a responsible law enforcement organ insofar as the needs of the citizens of this country is concerned. The most fundamental obligation of any government within the democratic space is the safety and protection of its people. And the police force really is the primary law enforcement organ in this country. And we owe it to all of us, Madam Speaker, to ensuring that the police force is brought up to the standard it ought to be brought to in order to ensure that the people of this country are adequately protected at all times, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I think that the last intervention by the leader of the opposition makes a lot of sense, to be quite honest with you. But I believe that certain things must be so fundamental, Madam Speaker. They must not only be said, because verbal outbreaks are very, very good. Anybody can do that. But our deeds are also very important. And I believe, Madam Speaker, we have to get to a point in this country where we can have mature intellectual discourse on issues that are relevant to the development of this country. We ought to get to a point where we can have arguments. But those arguments should not be seen as hate. They can be seen as another way to achieve the same developmental path, Madam Speaker. And, Madam Speaker, that's what I'm saying. So let us put aside this stoning of police officers, and let's call on the citizens of this country at all times to respect the police. Madam Speaker, even if I was a CID man most of the time, but we were very good in CID at swinging our buttons. You see? And then I think I've always said before, I've always said it is madness to engage a police force in a riot situation. Because if the police force actually uses force, the police officers cannot be prosecuted. So it's important for us and the member for Salisbury to understand that. So, Madam Speaker, this measure is before this Honourable House, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Police Amendment Act of 2018 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Police Amendment Act 2018.
The bill will now be committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Police Amendment Act of 2018 passed the committee stage without any amendments. The question is that the report on the committee of the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled the Police Amendment Act 2018 be read a third time and pass.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
We said fast, huh?
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Police Amendment Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Police Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly. Before we adjourn, I would just like to thank the staff of the House of Assembly, the police, the media persons present, the GIS personnel.
Yes, the leader of the opposition.
Say that again? You're free to make your thanks. May I make mine, please? I've been thanking on my own behalf. Now, I will thank on behalf of the House, all those persons as well, and if any other member would like to to add their thanks, I appreciate it. But I am very pleased with the way the media persons, the police, and everybody else has played their part, and I'm grateful that we conclude another meeting in a reasonable, harmonious setting. Thank you all.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, on behalf of the leader of the House, the Prime Minister, the members on the government side, I too would like to thank you to begin with for the excellent preparation that you made to accommodate us here in your place, Madam Speaker. The members of the government side, Madam Speaker, for their support and the spirit of the debate, Madam Speaker. As you would have noticed, Madam Speaker, we come here prepared, ready to do the business of the people, Madam Speaker. I think during the debate, the opposition will fairly well behave, Madam Speaker. Yes. And we must congratulate them for that. I don't know that something seems to be happening, Madam Speaker, you know.
And it's
I try to figure it out. I have not found it yet, you know, except now and then Mr. Baptist had some outbursts, you know, but no, Mr. Baptist, well, that is nothing surprising there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my only disappointment is I thought on the very important bill, the rapid response, Madam Speaker, understanding the impact that measure would have had on the general population, Madam Speaker. I thought we would have received a little more support from the opposition, but that having been said, Madam Speaker, I think we had a very good session, you know. I think the government side, we're ready to continue doing the work. There's a lot of work to be done, Madam Speaker. There's room for everybody, everybody in the country. But the Parliament itself, Madam Speaker, we have work to do, and I believe that sometimes we have to be 99% statesman and 1% politician. And so I would like to express special thanks to the new minister, Madam Speaker, Robert Isaac. I think he basically held his own, Madam Speaker, and he was not intimidated by his former colleagues, Madam Speaker. But he asked for my protection, and I want to promise him, Madam Speaker, that he can be guaranteed that when it becomes necessary, he will in fact have my protection, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know, just to thank everybody for the smooth conduct of business at the House, and look forward to seeing us back here very shortly, and we can see a further improvement in the level of the debate and the camaraderie and the cooperation that existed, Madam Speaker. And to thank the media and all those who've been listening to the debate and sending us their WhatsApp and text messages, Madam Speaker, in their support and appreciation for some of the measures that we took in here, Madam, to the benefit of the people. The police have done an excellent job, Madam Speaker, and I think everybody, the dinner was okay. And I think, Madam Speaker, you did a very great job in hosting us. Thank you very much. Good night. May God bless us all. Madam Speaker, at this point, I want to move that this House be adjourned, sine die.
seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded. It has been moved and seconded that this honorable house be adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable house stands adjourned sine die.
Madam Speaker, our stenographers, I'm sorry, but they too have been part of the whole process, and really need to thank them for the patience and the tolerance. It was stenographers. So, yeah. Okay. Oh.
Madam Speaker!
So it's on fellow, man.